Hello everyone. So let's sum up the intervals. There are intervals that are perfect intervals, unison, the octave, the fourth and the fifth. There are intervals that are major or minor, the seconds, the sevenths, the thirds and the sixths. If a minor interval gets bigger, it becomes major. If a major interval gets smaller, it becomes minor. If a perfect interval gets bigger, it becomes augmented. And if a perfect interval gets smaller, it gets diminished. Now we can make intervals even smaller than diminished. Then they become double diminished. And we can make augmented intervals even bigger than they are double augmented. The same goes for major. If a major interval becomes bigger, it becomes augmented. And if it becomes bigger than augmented, it becomes double augmented. If an interval is minor and it gets smaller, it becomes diminished. If it becomes even smaller than diminished, it becomes double diminished. So let me give you an example. We found out that this interval is an augmented fourth. First of all, it's a fourth if we ignore the accidental. Then the accidental, the sharp, makes the interval bigger. So perfect becomes augmented. To make this interval even bigger, we could flatten the C. In this case, we would have a double augmented fourth. One more time. We ignore the accidentals. From C to F we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones. Then we consider the first accidental, which is a sharp. It makes the interval bigger, so it becomes augmented. The flat in front of the C makes the interval even bigger, so we go from C flat to F sharp. Bigger than augmented means it's double augmented. Another example. From G to G flat we find a diminished fifth. First of all, it's a perfect fifth, but if we flatten the G, we get a diminished fifth. Let's make this interval even smaller by sharpening the C. Now from C sharp to G flat we get a double diminished fifth. C to G is a perfect fifth. C to G flat is a diminished fifth. And C sharp to G flat is a double diminished fifth. Let's try the same with the octave. Let's make it double augmented. To augment the perfect octave here, we could sharpen the C. In this case we have an augmented octave. Now to double augment it, we could flatten the C. So we get a C flat to a C sharp, which is a double augmented octave. How about the third here? F to A is a major third. Let's augment it by sharpening the A. In this case, we have an augmented third. We could also double augment it by flattening the F. F flat to A sharp is a double augmented third. Let me just write all of this in. Here we have a minor sixth. Let's get it down to a diminished sixth. To do that, we can flatten the C, and we get a diminished sixth. To double diminish the sixth, we could higher the E with a sharp. And here we have a major seventh. Let's turn this major seventh into a diminished seventh. To make this seventh minor, we could flatten the B. Now it's a minor seventh. To make the seventh diminished, we could double flatten the B, but we could also sharpen the C. And here we have a diminished seventh.